Hey guys, just wanted to let you know that I'm still am sick and I'm still battling with the bacterial infection. So if my voice is a little off, that is why. But now into the video. Hello, this is OverlordBou, back with another ship review, and today we'll be looking at the new premium Japanese Tier 7 cruiser, the Maya. You're able to get her on April 29th for 8,800 doubloons. Now, I would only recommend getting her for when she goes into the armory to use the, you'd be able to use the coupon on. And if you're trying to get her for the really cool camo. Now, I'll go into detail on why I would only recommend her with a coupon in the video. If you have any questions about anything or want to have a discussion, definitely leave a comment. Now, let's look at the build. Now, the build will be on the top right showing the order of the skills you should take for if you don't have a 21-point commander. The modules will also be showing as well. The build I have recommended is to focus on the reload booster and heal. It's more of a tank build, but you are able to build into extra HE damage instead of the Survivability expert. It's more of a personal choice. Now let's look into the armor and survivability. On the top right will be the armor layout. Now she has a 16mm bow / stern and hull with a 29mm superstructure with 39,200 HP pool. It has the highest HP pool among tier 7 cruisers, effectively even higher due to the repair party. It does have the raised citadel, sits very high above the water. Now Maya's survivability can be best described as theoretically tanky. She shares the same general armor layout as the tier 8 Atago, differing in a few areas such as deck armor and citadel protection. Compared to other tier 7 cruisers, Maya's high HP pool and repair parties is supposed to make her a difficult cruiser to kill. Unfortunately, Maya's extremely vulnerable citadel threatens to undo all her tanking abilities, as her armor layout is similar to the tier 7 Mayoko and tier 8 Atago. Maya also frequently takes citadels even when properly angled. BB caliber shells can overmatch her 25mm armor and hit her relatively high citadel. Worse, Maya's citadel shape gives her a vulnerable cheek similar to Yamato. She can bounce shells with her belt armor, but any shells that hits her turret can easily citadel her. Her heals does not compensate for her vulnerable citadels. Now let's talk about the main armament. She has 4 twin 203mm 50/50 guns with an ABXY layout, with a 15.3 kilometer range and a 16.5 second base reload. Now, it has a 25.7 second 180 turret degree traverse and can fire 31 degrees off the bow and 30 degrees off of the stern. Now, the HE shell damage is 3,000 with 34mm of HE pen with a 17% fire chance with 87k HE DPM. The AP shell damage is 4,700 with a 14mm overmatch with a 45 through 60 degree ricochet. Now angle, it's 137k DPM. Now it does have a decent shell ballistics. The gun dispersion is shown on the top right with 100 shots done in the example. It does have an excellent firing angles. It does suffer though from a very poor DPM before the MBRB is factored. Though she carries the same type of guns as the other IGN cruisers, Maya's firepower is considerably weaker, having the lowest DPM of any tier 7 cruiser. Compared to her tech tree counterparts, Maya only has 60% of the tier 7 Mayoko's DPM, even having less firepower than Aoba. To her credit, Maya's gun angles are excellent and have faster turret traverse than Mayoko's, so the firepower difference in practice is not as dramatic. Short gun range is also a significant issue, especially when up-tiered in larger maps. Maya can struggle to get into combat due to the longer engagement distances. Lack of spotter plane means she has no way to increase her short gun range. What saves Maya's guns from being outright horrible is access to the main battery reload booster. cutting her reload in half for 15 seconds. The MBRB allows her to squeeze in one extra salvo between her normal reloads. Very useful for shooting at DDs or to switch to AP to punish broadside cruisers. Maya shares the same shell ballistics and dispersion as other IGN cruisers. It has somewhat floaty compared to other heavy cruisers, but also slightly more accurate. Does the MBRB make up for all of her firepower deficiencies? Not really. Now for the torpedoes, you get 4 quad launcher 553mm 2 per side. They do 20,967 damage per torpedo, 8 kilometer range with 76 knot speed with 120 second reload. They do have an unusual firing arcs. It covers most of the ship, but only can fire both racks when fully broadside. Similar to F3 torpedoes, but with worse detection. Despite their potential, Maya's torps are still limited in their effectiveness. Her torpedoes are similar to the F3 torps, occasionally mounted on the higher tier IGN DDs, sporting higher speed and excellent damage. Maya's torps angles are set up similarly to a Togo, having 2 quad launchers per side, with 1 tube angled towards the front and the other angled towards the back. While this setup allows her to engage enemies at wider angles than the IGN cruisers, it also means she cannot concentrate her torpedo salvos. The more pressing issue is her limited torpedo range of 8 kilometers. It is unlikely Maya will be able to use her torps except when rushing enemies or when Cyclone is active. Given her durability issues, launching torpedoes can even be a death sentence if the enemy is aware of her weaknesses. Overall, her torps are a niche weapon only to be used at very close ranges. If you ever have to use them, you will likely die in the process. Now let's go into the anti-air defense. You get 3 flak puffs, 2 inner plus 1 outer. The outer DPM is 84 damage per second, and then in the near, which is 270 to 217 DPS. Now you do get access to DFAA, not that it does much. Maya's in-game text describes her refit, giving her substantial reinforcement of her anti-capabilities. This translates to plus 20 long-range DPS, plus 1 flak puff over the Myoko, which is effectively nothing. Perhaps a metaphor for how ineffective IGN AA provided during World War II. Now let's go into the maneuverability. The ship's top speed is 35.5 knots with a turning radius of 780 meters with a 10.1 second rudder shift. It's one of the fastest cruisers at her tier. A wide turning radius only better than the Russian cruisers. It does have a terrible rudder shift time, worst at tier 7. Maya's overall maneuverability is surprisingly poor for a cruiser. While she is very fast for her tier, her turning radius and rudder shift time leaves a lot to be desired. She may take a lot of Citadel hits as she struggles to angle in time. On the bright side, her repair party does somewhat make up for her lack of agility. Now for the concealment, the surface concealment is 12.8 kilometer base with a 7.2 kilometer aerial, and if you build into the detection, it goes to 11.5 kilometer in surface and 5.9 kilometer aerial detection. Now the ship does have poor detection. The Maya's concealment is mediocre by tier 7 cruiser standards, though it is slightly better than Myoko. However, Maya fares poorly when compared to cruisers in her matchmaking bracket. Most tier 5 and 6 cruisers have better base concealment, while tier 8 and 9 cruisers can mount concealment modules in the 5th upgrade slot. In other words, the vast majority of cruisers she will face will outspot her. Even some high tier BBs have better concealment, not a good sign for a cruiser with both survivability and firepower issues. Now for the consumables, the standard cruiser damage control party with 5-second immunity period with a 60-second reload. The Hydro, it shares the same slot as DFAA with 3 base charges, 4 with the superintendent, and the ship detection is 5 kilometers. Torp detection is 3.5 with 100-second active time and 120-second reload for the Hydro. The standard defense anti-air, which aims at the same slot as the Hydro. You get 3 base charges and 4 with the Superintendent. You get plus 500% continuous damage, plus 300% flak damage with a 40-second active time and 80-second reload time. The standard repair party, you get 2 base charges and 3 with the SI, 1 less than normal. Now you do get plus 14% HP over 28 seconds, and it heals 33% of Citadel damage, and it does have an 80-second cooldown. The main battery reload booster, you get 2 base charges, 3 with the Superintendent, which is 1 less than normal. It does reduce the reload by 50% for 15 seconds, effectively 1 extra salvo, and it does have a 60-second cooldown. Let's go into my overall impressions. The ship has an average skill floor and a high skill ceiling, and for randoms, I would say it's mediocre. Ranked is above average, and the MBRB can quickly punish light cruisers and DDs and may struggle versus multiple BBs if she can't torpedo them. In the Naria runs, she's inferior to your existing options like Weimar and Fiji and the Atlanta. Now, the Maya is a tier 7 Japanese cruiser, differing from her IGN sisters by carrying Repair Party and MBRB. Unlike other IGN cruisers, Maya is meant to get aggressive thanks to her Repair Party and smash vulnerable targets with her MBRB. She can also execute effectively close range close range torpedo attacks due to how her torpedo tubes are set up. However, she pays for all of this with a vulnerable Citadel and poor firepower. In a sense, she plays as a cross between IGN cruisers and French cruisers. Even compared to other ships, Maya performs much better when down-tiered or equal-tier matches, as she can quickly punish lesser ships while being less likely to be punished in return. On the other hand, she fares very poorly when up-tiered due to her lack of range and firepower. Now, as you can see, during most of this match, as you can see, I'm now fighting the Sinop and the Amagi, or the King George. I'm having a lot of trouble getting a lot of good damage hits onto these ships when I'm being up-tiered, or at the same tier as the BBs. So compared to being down-tiered, the ship has a lot easier time at down-tier, but when you're being up-tiered to, say, tier 8 or 9, it's going to be a lot harder to be able to play this ship. That's why I would say I'd recommend this ship more just to try to get collections for the camo, or if you have a coupon, because there are better tier 7 ship options. Though, maybe less of an issue as tier 9s see more super ships. Maya's overall performance is disappointing. Now, with the Maya being this disappointing, I would say, like I was saying earlier, I would only really recommend this ship only if you're trying to get it for the collection or for the camo, because the camo does look really nice. Because you can get a ship like a Weimar or the Munchkin or even the Atlanta, which I would say are better tier 7 ships over this ship. Now again, you can get this ship for 8,800 doubloons, but again, probably say maybe one of those options would be better, because in the end, I worked really hard in this match. Pretty much survived all the 20 minutes, as you'll see the score in the end, and yeah, I performed pretty well, but you guys will see. Now, in this game in the end was a loss with a full, and since this game was a full 20-minute game, so let's cut to the score. So I did 127,000 damage with 13 fires. Now that's pretty good for being up tier to tier 8, and I was also top of the team with 1,668 XP, which is pretty impressive with how much health I had most of the match, which was due to my own stupidity. Well, to close, you can get this ship on April 29th for 8,800 doubloons. Now, I would recommend it only for whenever you're able to buy it with a coupon, or if you're wanting it as kind of like a collector ship for the cool camo. But yep, this is OverlordBou. Thank y'all for watching. If you have any questions, concerns, tell me in the comments down below. But yep, I'll talk to y'all later.
Oh, big stretch, dude. Oh, big stretch, yeah.